Hey, YouTube world, we are back. I hope you are having a fantabulous Sunday. We have some breaking news actually to break down. After his long-awaited wait, and I think a wait that was fueling a lot of fire among football fans, trying to find something to pay attention to during this coronavirus situation, Jameis Winston has signed with the New Orleans Saints on a one-year contract. As they suspected during the regular season, he ultimately had to go down the Bridgewater technique, which of course is when a fringe level starter goes and backs up with a strong team in an effort to either take over that team or put themselves in a position to get a big contract elsewhere. Teddy Bridgewater did it with the Saints last year, netted him a big contract with the Panthers. Ryan Tannehill was the second basically at the same time, gets him a big time contract with Tennessee just by sitting behind Mariota for about 6 weeks, and now Jameis Winston is going to try and attempt the same thing. We're going to see sooner rather than later that this experiment will net him some positive results, but ultimately I think that Sean Payton wants Taysom Hill as the future of his organization or to draft a young up-and-coming quarterback over Jameis Winston. Now, they wanted to utilize Taysom Hill's full capacities during the season instead of just having him as the backup quarterback, thus the reason for the signing of Jameis Winston. And this occurred after the draft, I would assume, because the Saints were in a position to potentially draft a quarterback with one of their draft picks. Seeing Jordan Love slip, they probably had a first-round grade on Jordan Love, but wanted to see him slip into the second round where they could capitalize on his value. I would assume, looking back on it now, instead they're going to sign Winston because they did not get Jordan Love in their second-round evaluation like they wanted, and then they were left with the draft is over, we don't have a quarterback, okay, let's go sign Jameis Winston and have him back up Drew Brees. Now, remember, we are wholeheartedly convinced that this is Drew Brees' last season playing professional football. One last dance, by the way, check that out tonight, for the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees to try and get that elusive Super Bowl. And if having Jameis Winston fit into the Teddy Bridgewater role is kind of their MO, so be it. The Saints want to try again with that roster that they had last year, shoring up some parts that were, shortcomings in their attempts at a Super Bowl run last year when you talk about, the unfortunate injuries to Drew Brees, but they have a quarterback in the waiting. Getting a true second wide receiver in Emmanuel Sanders and filling up the position in their first-round pick of Cesar Ruiz, filling up the slot that was left by Max Unger in the middle of that offensive line by, the void vacated by his retirement. It's interesting that the Saints have gone this route because it seems like they're putting the same team together again as last year. Now that team won 13 games, so understandably that makes sense that you would want to run it back with a team that has gone this 13 wins and won the division each of the last 3 seasons and had some heartbreaking losses throughout that stretch. But this feels like this is it. This is the last dance for the New Orleans Saints. Regardless of whether Drew Brees retires or not, this is their last chance of the Super Bowl window that they have created with Alvin Kamara, with Michael Thomas, with the players on that defense, including P.J. Williams and Kiko Alonso and Cam Jordan. This is their last chance to claim that Super Bowl title, and they're pushing all the chips in this year to try and get that title. And having Jameis Winston as a backup quarterback and extending Taysom Hill with a 2-year extension makes sense when you're crafting that kind of team. And as they progress farther and farther into the season, we're going to start to see, this team has the talent to succeed, but come next year, a lot of that is going to be moving around. You're not going to see as much talent as there was before because the talent came at a great value, and value is what helps you win a championship in this league. So this year feels like the last dance for the New Orleans Saints. Now, for Jameis Winston's future, as we talked about, he is in the Bridgewatering camp, where he is in the market to try and get a long-term contract. Now, whether that means he's the future of the Saints, it means he would be the textbook definition of what Bridgewatering is meant to encapsulate. It's supposed to get these fringe-level starters a chance to play with a great system, prove their worth, and get a big contract from either that system or another team, basically a dumb organization. Smart organizations are where these quarterbacks go to. When you look at the team that Tannehill had in Tennessee, and you look at the smart organizational support with the Sean Payton offense and all that's been constructed down there in the Bayou. The issue was that Tennessee is not a smart organization. They just had a better, more talented team than anything Tannehill had on the Miami Dolphins. And all the pieces came together at the right time to allow Tannehill to perform better than what he performed in Miami. Like, Ryan Tannehill took the Dolphins to the playoffs, and he was a solid starter for 7 years. And what happened is that they put him on a better team than he had ever had before, and you saw what happened that year to Ryan Tannehill that ultimately netted him a new contract. That is what Teddy Bridgewater did when he when he re-upped with the Saints last year on a 1-year, $7 million contract, and it worked out. He got $63 million from the Carolina Panthers. That's what Jameis Winston wants now. Jameis Winston wants to prove on that 1-year contract that he can be the guy that you can sign up for 2, 3, 4 seasons, either with the Saints or with another organization that will be looking for a quarterback come next, 2021. This is all assuming that we have a season in the NFL this year, of course. But overall, fascinating signing. I think that Jameis Winston is going to put himself in a position to succeed one way or another. He'll find the field somehow, is the best case scenario for him. They're going to utilize him in some way, shape, or form the way that they used Teddy Bridgewater last year, and Bridgewater was able to then secure that long-term deal. Maybe Jameis comes back in 2021 and it's him and Taysom Hill battling it out for the starting job, but it does tell a lot that they were only willing to sign up 1 year for Jameis, and they gave Taysom Hill a 2-year contract extension on the exact same day. It's clear which guy Sean Payton and by default the front office want as their quarterback of the future. And it's not Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston has a chance to prove himself through the bridge watering technique.